This is exactly the type of video, the type of news, the type of information that you have been waiting for after years of rumors, speculation. It's never going to happen, FUD. The XRP Swift connection, it's no longer a theory. It is happening right in front of our very eyes. The cat, it's out the bag. The banking world is finally aligning with blockchain. Ripple's liquidity technology, it's merging with the global messaging backbone that moves $5 trillion a day for the last 50 years. 5 trillion. Let that number sink in. And what's happening right now, that could trigger the biggest monetary shift since the creation of the euro-dollar system itself. From Japan's banking regulators opening the floodgates to Dogecoin going corporate, seriously, to Ripple's quiet acquisition that links them directly into Swift's infrastructure. These pieces, they are all finally locking into place. And by the end of this video, you'll see exactly how Ripple, ISO 20022, and Swift's monetization plans, they're not competing. They are becoming one. Let's get into it because we got a lot to cover. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. If not, hit that subscribe button now. And if you want to support this channel in the freest way possible, well, all I ask is you press the thumbs up. The more thumbs up we get, the more YouTube pushes out this content. And we're going to start right here because Japan, their financial service agency, they just dropped the bombshell. They are considering allowing all their banks to hold cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin for investment purposes. Think how far we have come. That's not small news, everyone. That is the first domino in mainstream banking crypto custody. Because once banks can hold Bitcoin, guess what comes next? Ethereum, stablecoins, and XRP, the banker's coin designed for settlement efficiency. Look, Japan, they've always been early. They legalized crypto as legal tender before almost anyone else. Now they are laying the groundwork for institutional adoption at the banking level. This is how the dominoes all start to fall. And remember, President Trump knows what's going on over there. He's going to push the US regulators and his team to make sure they are a step ahead because he wants to make sure that he is the leader in this crypto race. Now we're talking about Doge here, Dogecoin. Not just barking anymore, everyone. It is going corporate. This is huge. We are seeing this trend. The House of Doge, the official commercial arm of the Dogecoin Foundation, they are now public on the NASDAQ under ticker TBH. Yeah, Dogecoin just hit Wall Street and it's backed by some big players, Citadel, Pantera Capital, Moisex, and a partner with Robinhood and 21 Shares. This isn't a meme move anymore. It is a financial freaking takeover. And guess who's at the helm? Marco. You know who he is? Well, he's a payments veteran. He sold his company for $270 million. Now he is leading Dogecoin's payment era. I mean, we're talking partnerships across sports, universities, and major retailers, turning Doge into real world money. But it doesn't stop there because under the ticker Zone, the official Dogecoin treasury, they hold over 700 million Doge, and they are managed by Elon Musk lawyer Alex Barrero. If MicroStrategy was the Bitcoin play, well, Zone, that's your Dogecoin version. The engine that accumulates, manages, and multiples Doge. Owning Dogecoin, owning the currency. Owning TBH and Zone, that is owning the actual infrastructure that powers it. Dogecoin, its next act isn't a meme. It is an official movement and it is now public, which moves us over to this because we're going to look at this. Let me blow this up. These are your XRP ETF deadlines. You probably know this, but rip, October 18th, that's passed. October 19th, that passed. We have one due today. Well, they're coming because the government's going to reopen. And when the government reopens, the SEC needs to go back in motion. These approvals, it could hit in waves, and you combine these ETFs, which are spot ETFs, meaning they need to physically buy XRP and hold it. Combine that with rate cuts, that is your liquidity injection event. ETFs brought Wall Street into Bitcoin. They will bring them into utility coins, the ones that actually move value, not just store it. This is where XRP, enters centered stage, which gets us over to this. Brian Armstrong, he was live on CNBC. He said Bitcoin's going to $1 million. And yet most retail investors still aren't bullish enough, or are they looking like, I can't afford a Bitcoin, because they don't understand this isn't a stock. You can buy fractions of a Bitcoin. Think about that for a second. Bitcoin is going to keep climbing. There is not enough Bitcoin out there. Listen to Brian.
There's a couple of big tailwinds now, which lead me to think that there's a good chance Bitcoin could be at $1 million per coin, by 2030 or so. And that's the relationship between interest rates and stocks. It can always be complex. Like for a long time, people thought these things were positively correlated. And now I think over time, people are starting to think of Bitcoin almost like gold or something. It's something people might flee to in times of uncertainty. So it's a hybrid between those two things. But I try not to get too caught up in the short-term trends. What I try to do is look at the long-term trends. And there's a couple of big tailwinds now, which lead me to think that there's a good chance Bitcoin could be at $1 million per coin, by 2030 or so. And that's partly it's the regulatory clarity that's emerging. I mentioned the Genius Act, and now with market structure legislation, hopefully getting close, that could be a major moment. We also saw the United States of America now has a strategic Bitcoin reserve. So if the United States government is going to begin holding Bitcoin, I think that's going to be a massive driver of demand, and the rest of the G20 countries will probably follow suit. And then the last thing I'd say is that we saw recently the launch of the Bitcoin ETFs by a number of different firms, and Coinbase is actually powering 80% of the custody for those that are out there. But we're seeing a ton of institutional money continue to flow into Bitcoin now that these ETFs are live. So
institutional money keeps flowing in. That's why the price keeps climbing and climbing and climbing. The US government's going to be holding Bitcoin. 100% those G20 nations are going to follow. When the financial system rewires around digital liquidity, Bitcoin sets the narrative. But XRP will power those payments. Let me get this. Pomp versus the media. You love this. Pomp destroyed a Fox host who called Bitcoin too volatile to save in. He said volatility is the price of progress. And he's right. But here's the catch. Because while Bitcoin represents, this store of value, XRP represents the flow of value. Listen to Pomp out here.
The volatility on this thing is way too high for anybody to call that a savings account. I mean, you may like it, but I think that's a bridge too far right now, isn't it?
Over the last 30 years, the US dollar has lost 50% of its purchasing power. So in my lifetime, $1 now buys you 50% or 50 cents of service and goods. And so when you think about that, the most volatile asset that most people hold is the dollar, and they're on the wrong side of volatility. Bitcoin, on the other hand, over a long period of time appreciates. And so the best statistic to look at this is in 2016, the average median home was about $380,000. I'm sorry, $280,000. Today it's over $400,000, right? So 50% increase in the average home in America. During that same 8-year period, it used to cost 664 Bitcoin to buy that home. Today it costs 6 Bitcoin. It has been a 99% reduction in the cost of a home in America if you held Bitcoin. And so
look, love the man or hate the man, right? What he is doing and going out there, because millions of people saw this on Fox. This is education, and it starts to make people think and get them involved. This is exactly what we need. When we look at Ripple's integration with global banks, it matters. They're not trying to replace Bitcoin. They are building the infrastructure that makes Bitcoin usable at scale. And then don't forget about this, the Fed, they're cornered. Markets are now pricing in 100% chance of rate cuts coming in October. That's going to be your liquidity trigger, the spark for a risk-on environment. And when liquidity floods back into the system, it doesn't just go into equities, everyone. It goes into digital rails. Ripple knows this, Swift knows this, and guess what? They are already preparing for this, because that gets us right here. Wintermute, they've been sending millions of dollars, or say millions, to Binance, liquidating shorts in real time. They're not doing this for fun and for laughter and for enjoyment. They are doing this because this is the order of flow control. It is the same pattern that we saw before major reversals in both 2020 and in 2021. Smart money is repositioning, absorbing the sell pressure and preparing for a breakout. And every time they do this, altcoins with real infrastructure, guess what? They're going to explode next. And then we talk about Ripple's liquidity hub and the real Fed backdoor. here's where the script flips, and a lot of people are missing this. So Ripple is now building liquidity hubs that let institutions bypass the Eurodollar offshore pricing mechanisms entirely. Let me translate that for you, what that really means. Ripple is creating a parallel dollar liquidity system, but faster, transparent, and programmable. The Fed keeps the domestic system stable. Ripple handles the global rails. The central bank guards the castle, folks, but Ripple builds the highway that moves the gold. And those highways, well, they connect directly into ISO 20022, your digital bridge. The Bank for International Settlements, you probably heard that name before. They just confirmed that ISO 20022 can be used for digital assets, stablecoins, and central bank digital currencies. That's massive because ISO is Swift's new messaging standard. They all have to upgrade to it. It's literally your bridge that's going to allow stablecoins and central bank digital currencies to plug into the same messaging rails that banks already use. And guess which blockchain is ISO compliant right now? Ripple, or XRP Ledger. That's right. This is your connective tissue between Finance 1.0 and Finance 2.0. Ripple isn't fighting Swift, folks. They are becoming its upgrade path. And then we get this piece of news coming out talking about the Swift compatibility application profile, because this is when Ripple took a massive leap towards full integration through Swift, through their acquisition of GTreasury, that name that you keep hearing that people really don't understand who they are or what they do. GTreasury is Swift certified, ISO ready, integrated with Swift's messaging already, and they are used by hundreds of banks worldwide. Ripple just didn't buy a company, a random company. They bought access to the world's interbank messaging network. That is the bridge everyone has been waiting for. So Ripple now sits directly in the flow of global liquidity, so from Swift messaging to XRP settlement. This is the final puzzle piece. And then we see this as well. Tighten your seatbelts. Now below this up so you can see it on your screen. You can see on your top left-hand corner, 2020, when gold went to its top, you can see Bitcoin was all the way down here in the orange, or in the green circle, in your bottom left. So gold hit its top. What happened? Gold started to correct, price came down, and then Bitcoin's price went up. What are we seeing right now in 2025? Gold that's hitting its top. We expect the retrace of gold to start come back down, meaning your money is now going to rotate out and go into Bitcoin. So let's connect these dots here. Japan opening banks to crypto custody. ETFs are lining up for a massive amount of effort. XRP ETF approvals coming through. We got rate cuts coming. Ripple's integrating with Swift through the latest acquisition of GTreasury. This isn't a coincidence. It is coordination. Ripple provides the liquidity. Swift provides the messaging. ISO 20022 provides the common language. And together, they're building the new financial internet. The XRP plus Swift connection, it's no longer a what if. It's the system upgrade the world has quietly been preparing for. So when people are out there and they say XRP is never going to move, remember, neither did the internet until one day when it did. Hit that thumbs up on your way out. Make sure you subscribe. I hope you enjoyed, folks. I'll see all y'all